Chapter 1. What are you really afraid of? Have you ever stopped to wonder why, before making any decision, you subconsciously imagine how others will react? What society will say? What your friends, coworkers, or family might think? As if you're not living your own life, but someone else's. There's a scene in Guy Ritchie's Revolver that's worth watching again and again. A monologue that strips away the illusions, cutting straight to the bone. The character doesn't sugarcoat it. It's as if he's talking right to your face. You're not afraid of pain. You're not afraid of fear. You're afraid of being without approval, without external validation for your existence. And in that moment, something clicks. You start to see the chains, the invisible ones that society keeps around your neck. You weren't born craving recognition. That was installed, first by your parents, then by school, then the government. You were taught not to think, but to obey, not to seek truth, but to comply. And the entire performance runs on one thing, the reward mechanism. If you meet expectations, you're accepted. If you deviate, you're cast out. Politics figured this out a long time ago. Doesn't matter whether you live in a democracy or dictatorship, the core is the same. If you want to be heard, play by the rules. What about religion? I think that's where they wrote the first manuals. For centuries, religion shaped the rules of acceptable behavior. Break the rules? That's a sin. And sin is a brilliant little word. It lets you hide all kinds of control behind something that sounds sacred. Convenient, isn't it? When you want to justify centuries of exterminating those who believe differently, live differently, think differently. And no, I'm not attacking real faith. True faith is something luminous, something deeply meaningful. This isn't about belief, it's about control. These methods run deep, right into the psychology of who we are. They plant beliefs. Beliefs give birth to thoughts. Speaking of thoughts, have you ever felt like your own thoughts aren't even yours? That your desires are just echoes of 100 societal templates installed in your head since childhood? Psychology has a name for this: social reinforcement. We look to others to determine whether what we're doing is right. And that builds archetypes: the good son, the perfect daughter, the successful professional, the normal person. But who decided what normal even means? The system is simple: conform and you'll be saved, deviate and you'll be excluded. Schools and universities don't teach you how to think, they teach you how to repeat. Teachers don't reward curiosity, they reward correct answers. You don't learn to seek truth, you learn to seek approval, because without approval you're nothing. And that mindset follows you into your job, your relationships, your everyday life. You become a puppet, pulled by the fear of not being recognized. But here's the truth: a rare few dare to step outside the box. A rare few challenge the system. And those rare few, they're the ones who create what's real, not because they don't care, but because they stop being hostages to what everyone else thinks. So here's the question: do you want to be one of them? And if you could take back control, what would be the first thing you do? Chapter 2. Recognition, a soft-walled prison cell. Think about this. Maybe you're not living your life, but a script someone else wrote for you. It doesn't matter who: parents, a society, advertisements, culture. The key thing is not you. Recognition is a sweet poison. It's soft and enveloping. It whispers, "You're good. Keep going this way, and we'll love you." It pretends to care for you, but behind it stands a system that only needs you in one role: controlled, convenient, predictable. You're locked in a cage, but not a metal one. No, it's soft, cozy. There's Wi-Fi, Netflix, coffee for breakfast, and the illusion of choice. You've been conditioned to believe that recognition is the goal. But the truth is, recognition is a reward for obedience. It has nothing to do with your truth. It's about how well you fit into others' expectations. The more you rely on recognition, the farther you drift from who you really are. You stop feeling what you truly need. You stop hearing the quiet voice inside that says, this isn't yours. Politics, the mass media, the success industry, they all sell you the label, be like this and you'll become someone. But who? And more importantly, why? To be recognized by those who themselves don't even know who they are. There is no color in this world. According to the laws of physics, there is none. There are wavelengths, frequencies, spectra. Color is an illusion. It's how our brain interprets light. We live in a world where even perception is not objective. We give meaning to things, events, words, but that meaning is born within us, not outside. And recognition works the same way. It seems real, but it's just a reflection of others' interpretations. You're the one who paints this world, the one who chooses how to see it. You can view it as a drama. You can see it as an adventure. You can see it as a game where you set the rules. Because in the grand scale of the universe, we're just flying on a giant rock through cold space, without labels, without meanings, without boundaries. In one of his books, Carlos Castaneda shared an interesting thought. Everything that happens is foolishness, but for some it's conscious, for others it's not. And that's the key, not to run away from the world, not to hide in a cave, but to live in it consciously, to choose, not to obey, but to act with understanding, not to reject society, but to learn how to be free within it. So who are you without recognition? Who will you become when you stop waiting for approval? Chapter 3. The First Cry. Do you remember yourself as a child? Not as an image, not a photograph from an album, but truly, how you felt the world, what it was like before anyone told you what it should be. At the beginning, you were pure. You explored. You asked questions. You didn't know what wrong was, but very quickly, you tasted the first no. For the first time, you felt what it was like to be misunderstood, to be inconvenient. And from that moment on, you started adapting, silently, quickly, instinctively, because the child wants one thing, to be loved. That's where the first compromise begins. You give up a piece of your authenticity in exchange for approval, then another, and another, until almost nothing remains. Psychologists call this the formation of social patterns. Behavioral models are cemented at the subconscious level. Do it this way, you'll get attention, affection, recognition. Do it differently. There will be shame, coldness, silence. This is how stereotypes, archetypes are formed. You learn to be the good boy, the proper girl, to avoid punishment. And that's when the image appears, the mask, the persona that you wear for the rest of your life, unless you become aware of it. School continues this dance. Here, no questions are asked unless there are already known answers. Here, truth is not sought. Conformity is taught. Thoughts within limits. Answer as written. And most importantly, don't stand out, because the system doesn't like those who go beyond the edge. Education, which should have been a bridge to freedom, becomes a tool of standardization. The university is yet another factory where they mold you into socially acceptable, not so that you know who you want to be, but so that you know how to be needed, convenient, replaceable. But what if you don't want to be part of the flow? What if you feel this isn't yours? That's where the conflict begins. You feel guilty. You're afraid you won't fit in. And again, you reach for recognition. Again, you sell a piece of your freedom for a drop of approval. And you don't even notice how you start to become a shadow, living not a life, but a role. But the world doesn't have to be a stage where you perform someone else's script. True freedom doesn't begin when you destroy the walls. It begins when you realize the walls were inside. You kept yourself in them to fit in, and only you can step out. So ask yourself, do you want to be good, or do you want to be yourself? Chapter 4. How much is your uniqueness worth? What do you think? Does the system need your uniqueness? Do you think you're insignificant? Do you think the system doesn't notice you? On the contrary, it notices you better than you notice yourself. It has been watching you since the moment you first went to school, opened a bank account, created social media accounts. It studies your weaknesses, your desires, your fears, not to help you, but to direct you gently, precisely, unavoidably. The government, corporations, mass culture, they don't need you as an individual. They need a mechanism, a part of the machine, a cog that works without interruption, preferably from 9 to 6, preferably without unnecessary questions, without searching for meaning, without morning meditations, mindfulness, and the desire to understand who you really are. Too many thinking people, dangerous for the system. Too many happy people, inconvenient to control. Too many free people, impossible to manage. That's why they tell you, be realistic. Translation, give up. Work harder. Translation, forget yourself. Gain recognition. Translation, play by rules you didn't create. Have you noticed how careers are structured, where success is just a change from one cage to a slightly larger one? Or how success in society is often measured not by internal fulfillment, but by the number of followers, status, and brands? All of this are levers, managed needs. You don't choose what you want. They tell you, quietly but constantly. But who said you have to play this game? One day, you wake up and realize your whole life you've been chasing praise, likes, your boss's approval, a passerby's smile. You've been hooked on recognition, and all this time you could have chosen. You could have stopped, looked around, heard yourself, because approval is not a guarantee of happiness. It doesn't fill you, it doesn't make you whole. It only temporarily dulls the inner anxiety you feel every time you're living someone else's life. It's important to understand this isn't about destroying society. We're not talking about anarchy. We're talking about freedom within the structure, the privilege of conscious choice, the right to be yourself, even if you remain within the system. You live in the city, you work, you socialize, but you no longer sleep. You've woken up, and now you can see how everything is set up. So ask yourself, do you want to close your eyes again? Chapter 5. You are not broken. You are not broken. Do you hear me? You were never broken. Maybe you're a little bent, but not broken. You've just been living by someone else's rules. You've been playing someone else's game. You've tried to fit into a mold that wasn't made for you. And if it's been hard, it's not because you're weak. It's because you've been forcing yourself to stay in a shape that isn't yours. Liberation doesn't begin with a revolution. It begins with silence, with an internal stop period, with realizing that you no longer want to continue in the same way, not because you're tired, but because you've awakened and you feel it. The time has come. So how do you let it all go? First, stop seeking approval. Stop waiting for someone to say, you're doing everything right. No one is coming. No one will give you permission to be yourself. That's your job, your responsibility, and your privilege. You don't have to be loved by everyone. You don't have to fit in. You might be misunderstood. You have the right to be strange, unique, inconvenient, but real. Second, start asking yourself questions. Not, what should I do to be recognized? But, what makes me feel alive? What is truly mine? Who am I if I take away all the roles? The answers won't come immediately, and that's okay, because you're not a formula, you're a process, movement, search, discovery, and there is no destination. There's only the journey, and this journey must be yours. Third, stop comparing. No one lives your life. No one sees the world the way you do. No one carries your pain, your joy, your inspiration. Recognition from others won't make your path easier. It will make it someone else's. Get rid of the templates. You don't have to be successful by someone else's standards. What even is success? Who invented it? How do we measure it? You don't have to be the perfect parent, entrepreneur, man, or woman. You don't have to fit the archetype of a hero. You can simply be yourself. The world is full of voices, advertisements, advice, bright images, inflated beauty that whispers to you, pushing you down a sugary path to false success. But the most valuable sound is the silence within you, where there's no unnecessary noise, where the truth can be heard. Give yourself the privilege of choice, the choice to be alive, not recognized or approved, but free. Chapter 6. Adaptation is your strength. You live among people. This cannot be changed. You walk down the same streets, look at the same screens, stand in lines, greet your neighbors. You need to work, interact, pay bills, and there's nothing wrong with that. The problem arises when you lose yourself in this flow, when you start thinking that being part of society means stopping being yourself. This is where the illusion of choice arises. Either you adapt and become normal, or you retreat into solitude. But there's a third path, and it requires much more courage. It's the path of awareness. It begins with the recognition. Yes, you are part of society, but you don't have to dissolve into it. You don't have to go where the crowd goes. You don't have to laugh at things that aren't funny to you, or agree with things that hurt your soul. You can participate and not lose yourself. You can be among people and still not play by their script. You can smile without betraying your true feelings. This is a skill, and it requires practice. An aware life is not about escaping. It's not about resistance. It's the ability to see the essence, even when everything around you is noise and illusion. Remember, the importance of the events in your life is created by you. You are the one who gives meaning to what's happening around you, and you are the one who can control your perception. You can sit in a meeting and understand that it's just a game. You can argue in a conversation without getting emotionally involved. You can listen to the news without losing your inner peace, because you no longer seek approval. You observe. You choose. And that's the most important thing. You choose. You choose what to spend your time on, who to be around, what to eat, what to believe, how to move, how to speak. And yes, this doesn't mean you'll become perfect. Awareness is not armor. You will still make mistakes, suffer, get tired. But the difference is that you will do it consciously. You will stop being a puppet. Your freedom lies in knowing that you can always step aside, even if everyone else is going straight ahead, even if they look at you like you're strange, even if no one understands why you're doing it, because you hear yourself and because you no longer sell the silence within for applause from the outside. Chapter 7. Colors that do not exist. You look at the sky, it's blue. The sunset, it's crimson. The grass, is green. But if we discard the poetry from a physics standpoint, there's no blue, no green, no crimson in this world. Color is an illusion. An object reflects light of a certain wavelength. Your eyes capture it and your brain interprets it. The sky isn't blue. It only seems blue. And life is exactly the same. You look at events and see betrayal, success, love, failure. But that too is just a reflection. The light passing through the filters of your experience, your pain, your expectations, and your brain colors it. It gives it meaning. But here's the question. What if you could choose what that meaning would be? What if you didn't have to see a layoff as a catastrophe, but could see it as freedom? What if loneliness isn't a hole, but a space for meeting yourself? What if other people's disapproval isn't a verdict, but simply a signal that you're not on their path? The world is not fixed. It's not defined. In the grand scheme, it's an endless ocean of energy amidst vast emptiness, and everything you experience, you create within yourself. And here's where real freedom begins. You don't have to react the way you were taught. You don't have to assign meaning the way society does. You don't have to experience pain the way it's traditionally accepted. You can reshape your optics. You can repaint your reality. You can choose how to live, even when you can't change the circumstances. Because in the end, you're not what happens to you. You're what you perceive of what happens to you. We are all flying on a giant rock through the endless darkness of space. There are no road signs, no guaranteed routes, no control center, and in that lies the great opportunity. If everything is meaningless by default, then you can give what happens your own meaning, your own color, your own voice. You are the author of your inner reality. And when you realize that, the world stops being a prison. It becomes a tool, a space of possibilities. So, how do you want to see this day? Chapter 8. Live. For so many years you followed other people's voices. For so many years you strove to become someone who could be approved of. You smiled when you wanted to scream. You agreed when your heart protested. You stayed silent when everything inside was tearing apart. You convinced yourself that everything would be fine, that you just needed to endure a little longer. You wanted to be good, acceptable, accepted, but good by someone else's rules. Approval became your drug, recognition, your currency. You traded your authenticity for fleeting applause. You exchanged gold for beads, but the time has come to ask the most important question. What will happen if you stop chasing it? You won't disappear. You won't crash. You'll begin. Because all this race was an illusion. Because no one is capable of giving you what you can give yourself, the right to be. You don't have to be liked by anyone. You don't have to fit in. You have the right to be yourself, even if they don't understand you for it, even if they turn away, even if you're left alone, because only in that loneliness will you truly meet yourself. And that's when the miracle happens. When you stop seeking recognition, you become whole. When you stop demanding approval, you begin to breathe. When you simply are, without roles, without masks, without a performance, you suddenly feel you're alive. You can say no and not feel guilty. You can be strange and not explain yourself. You can be yourself, and that will be enough. This doesn't mean everything will now be easy, but now it's your path. Not dictated, not imposed, not copied, but chosen, conscious, alive. Remember, you don't have to run to the forest or hide from the world. You can be in it. You can love, work, create, make mistakes, suffer, rejoice, but not out of the need to be recognized, but from the fullness of being yourself. Your life is not a draft, and it's happening right now, this second, this moment. And the only question worth asking is, do you choose to live or to be approved? Answer yourself.